Alrighty. So activity 6 in the Kids Making Sense curriculum is called What is in Our Air? And in this activity, the students will be using the air beams and the phones to get outside and measure particles. So the basics here, I don't have a lot of material to talk about before we're all going to do this, so this will be really fun. But the basics of this activity, there are 5 air beams and phones in a kit, and so this is another great activity for teams. So we've gone ahead and we have these little laminated cards in each kit that explain the different roles that the students will have as a member of a team that's going out and taking air quality measurements with the air beam. And I won't go through them all, but I wanted to let you know that they are there. So you're going to have someone thinking about, well, actually, I will go through them all. Someone thinking about the time. So as they're going out to make measurements, someone is going to be keeping track of, when they need to be back. You'll have an observer who is going to be using their senses to really, look around and see what is around as they're walking. So, if you observe that you've walked by, landscaping activity or, a bus that, you notice maybe dust as it accelerated, and that measurement is reflected in your air beam, you're going to want to make actually a note of that, of that source and what you're seeing. So that person will help you observe your surroundings. You're going to have a cartographer. So one of the basics of this activity is to have the students ahead of actually going out and using the air beams, plan their routes and think about different sources in and around their schools and in their communities. So the teachers will be have the option to essentially prepare maps, either digitally or print them out for the students, so the students can look at what they have in their community and where they might want to go on their air casting routes. You're also going to have the air sensor transporter, so the person who's in charge of carrying the air beam. And each of these cards has helpful tips and instructions for the students. So when they're out and about, obviously you don't want to block the air beam with your hand, the inlet or outlet with your hand, and influence the measurements in that way. And you're also going to have a phone carrier, so someone who's in charge of looking at the app, making sure that you're collecting measurements, noting if concentrations are higher or lower, is that what we expect, that kind of thing. So those 5 roles are, to help students understand what their role in the team is. Obviously, actually holding the air beam and the phone are the most exciting roles probably for a lot of students, and so being able to do this activity more than once with the same team, so individuals can switch into different roles is probably really good for the students. And we have a number of, let's see, where is that? Helpful tips here. Don't, like I said earlier, don't cover the air beam inlet or outlet. The air beam and the phone need to stay, the people carrying those tools need to stay relatively close to each other. If they get too far apart, you'll lose the connection between the app and the air beam. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, safety is #1 priority. So they still need to be aware. The observer can help with this, making sure that they're not walking into the middle of the road in front of traffic. Safety. Really want to drill that into the students. All right. So with that, I'm going to actually, do we want to break? So we have 10 air beams and phones set up in the back, or we have them in the back, and you guys are going to walk through the setup. But we need essentially to break into teams, and I don't know the final count here today, but if you can do teams of 5 or 6, or even if there are fewer, that would be ideal. But we're going to be walking through the air beam setup or the phone setup, turning the phone on, connecting to Wi-Fi, and pairing the app with the air beam. So with that, I would encourage you guys to find your teams and get your air beam and your phone and come sit down and I'll walk through it with you.
Does every team have an AirBeam and a phone? Does anyone need one?
We have 2 more.
You guys are good? All right. All right, you guys have your AirBeam? Great. All right, well, it appears that we have an extra set, so if there's a very large team that wants to have an additional... Here, you guys have another one.
Okay, is everyone has their technology? All right, great. I'm going to say a few words before we start the first step. So one of the things that we do ahead of time is we actually pair the phone and the AirBeam, and we make sure that everything's working. So you might notice that your AirBeam and your phone have an ID on them, and those should match. Just verify that. And the second thing we need to do here before we pair the AirBeam and the phone, so Wi-Fi is only needed at two spots or 2 different times during this activity. The first is when we're setting up, we're turning on the phone. You want to connect your phone to Wi-Fi. That will allow you to log into the Aircasting app, as we'll do in a little bit here. And then when you're out taking measurements, you actually don't need Wi-Fi at all. The phone and the AirBeam talk to each other through Bluetooth. And then when you come back into an area where you have Wi-Fi, that's when the data that you've collected on the phone will be pushed to the Kids Making Sense mapping website. So at this point, please connect your phones to Wi-Fi. And there should be a free network. All right. So Wi-Fi connected, great. At this point, we're going to open the Aircasting app, and that looks like the logo on the front of your AirBeam box. So it's a little blue A with wings or like radio signal looking things around it. So it should be on your the front of your screen. Does everyone see the Aircasting app? Okay. Oh, okay. This is after you've connected to Wi-Fi. All right. Anyone having issues with Wi-Fi? You guys are? Okay. Hmm. Not yet. No. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I was able to get onto the free Wi-Fi. Are we still having trouble with the Wi-Fi? So a lot of times this is the it's good that we're here walking through this today because typically when teachers or students are having issues, it's this first step. Logging into the Wi-Fi is actually pretty challenging. But if you guys are ready for the next step, I'm going to talk about the Aircasting app. So was everyone able to find the Aircasting app on their phone? Haven't gotten it yet. Okay. I believe it. Okay, great. Okay. So the Aircasting app, when opened, should look like this. You guys will see 3 blue dots here. There's the menu on the top left is where you're going to be logging in. So I've already logged in, but when you press that, you should see a login or create account blue button at the very top. At this point, you're going to need to use you're going to create your own account. So we highly recommend writing down your username and your password because these we cannot recover those. So you have to, make sure you know what, exactly the capitalization and the username and password that you've selected here. So go ahead and create an account and log into the Kids Making Sense app. And I will say a few more words here. This is actually necessary in order to record data and then have it uploaded to the website. So you can use the app without creating an account, but in order to record the data and then have it show up on the website, you really want this account. You can create multiple accounts. So for this exercise today, you'll be using obviously one account per Airbeam. We also tell the teachers that they might want to create an Aircasting account for their whole class. So and then you can log into that one account on all of the Airbeams. You don't have to have the students create individual accounts. You really want to have that class account for their work.
So everybody would be, all the phones for that classroom would be set on the same account?
Yes. Yes.
And that's not going to affect like readings or whatever?
It won't, yeah. And it's nice because then it keeps all the data that they've collected actually under the same account, and there are no questions about, well, whose profile did we measure that on, and where is this data? Yeah. All right. So once you're logged in, once you've created your account and you've logged in, you should see the name of your account up at the top where that blue button used to be. Okay. All right. Is anyone having trouble creating an account or logging in? Everyone successful? All right. I'm going to take that as a yes. So you've logged in, which is great. Now you have to turn your Airbeam on. There is a very hidden button on the bottom. You can actually see it looking at it. It's a rectangular shape. If you press that in, you'll notice that you see a light at the bottom of your Airbeam. You're going to see a red light initially. So at this point, you're going to want to wait until the light turns green. And now I have a green light. Does everyone see that? And at this point, I can press the Configure Airbeam 2 button on my app. And it should bring up a screen that looks like the one on the left there, available devices. And you want to check that the ID for the AirBeam 2 matches the ID on the back of your AirBeam. And if it does, then you're clear to press connect. At this point, it's going to ask you what your session type is. We're going to be doing a mobile session today, so go ahead and select mobile. And then you'll see a dashboard screen that displays the different parameters that you can measure with your AirBeam 2. So at the top of my screen, I see AirBeam 2-F, which is temperature. And below that, I see PM1, which is the smallest size fraction of PM that this AirBeam measures. Then I see PM10 and PM2.5, and relative humidity. At this point, all of you're only seeing gray, right? So in order to start recording a session, you're going to press the circular button at the top right-hand corner of the app. And it's going to ask you to name your session. So some feedback we've had at this point is that you may want to come up with a standard way to name your sessions. So whether that's, period 2 at a certain school, class, whatever. So the students don't pick, we've had some feedback that students will pick maybe inappropriate things if left to their own devices. So go ahead and name your session, title your session, and then the use of tags, you don't have to actually use the hashtag, but the tag helps you find your session later on the map. If it's another way to search for your session. So, for example, you can label it, South Coast SQ or AMQD or training or something. So these things help you look for the sessions later. And after you've selected your title and placed your tags, go ahead and start session. And at that point, you should notice that the colors on your app have changed. So they're no longer gray. You're actually seeing that you're making measurements with the AirBeam. Does everyone see colors? So there are a few other handy things you can do with this app to look at the data in different ways. If you select, so I'm going to display PM 2.5 on a map here. I've scrolled down to the PM 2.5 tile, and I'm just going to lightly press on the tile, and it's going to bring up a screen that says, would you like to stream your session as a graph or a map? While you're still connected to Wi-Fi, it's a good idea to look at the map so you can make sure it's centered on your actual location.
You're ahead of us?
I'm sorry.
We can't see what you're pointing at.
I'll come over and help you guys later. So with that, I'm looking at a map right now, and it's actually centered on our office in Petaluma, and that's not where we are. So the way you can center it on your location is by pressing, there's a circular looking button above the zoom in and zoom out buttons on the bottom right. If you press that, it should bring us to our location in Diamond Bar, which it did.
So we have a question.
Yes.
If at any point we get disconnected from the dashboard, how do we get back into that?
That is a good question. Let me see what your example looks like, and I'll.
Except for you, hold the key. If we all name it the same thing here, is that what the problem is? I don't think that is. And I will disconnect it automatically then. We'll just do the process again. Yeah. So. We have to pair it.
right now the area may not have, because I think there is, I'm trying to see where is this, it should have, yeah, it should be here because we have numerous conferences. I just wonder if like the exact also active at the same time if it would flag. It should, I mean, I have a guy that's exactly.
So it seems like we're having some technical difficulties, possibly with the restrictions around the Wi-Fi. So what we're recommending is,
The app is now. Are we going to test it one more time to make sure that's the problem?
Yeah, I think we should test it first before announcing.
Let's make sure that's the problem.
okay, stand by for 1 sec. So if everybody could turn your AirBeam off and then on again while standing by. All right, we're going to get started again. Was that fun? The walkabout?
Yeah, we'd like to hear from you guys how it went. So, did you guys experience issues with being able to look at the map still? You did? You couldn't connect.
So we could only go look at our numbers, but they couldn't change colors for us to see. We think that based on the number, it's going to follow on that AQI index, right?
Yes.
So it should have displayed whatever color
Yeah.
was on the index.
Yeah. Yeah.
The highest reading we got was 55. Was that the 2.5 or the 10? I think it was. Was the we got 55 when we held it up to the exhaust of the 2018 car, gasoline.
Oh. That's a lot.
5 p.m. 10?
All right, so so this has been illustrative. I think there are always potential technical issues to help troubleshoot and help your teachers work through, and we do provide. Within each kit, an AirBeam 2 quick start guide that will help your teachers and students troubleshoot any issues that they may have. Yes.
I think I would find it helpful, and maybe everybody would be too, for you to actually go through one at a thing to show us what physically is in the kit, because randomly you're like, this isn't the kit, this isn't the kit.
Yeah. So I don't want to pull everything out of here, but everything that's in the kit is on also a list of what's in this kit, and so in addition to the AirBeams and the phones, it's really the materials that you're going to need to do the activities that we've gone through today. And then there are just a few items not in each kit, which Lisa said that AQMD is going to be supplying for this work. As of right now, it's just the water and the jugs that are not included in the kit. In addition to that, if the students want to work with paper or laminated maps of their school campuses and regions, those are also not included in the kit because that's very location specific. So is that helpful for what's in the kit without me pulling out all the materials? That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to stay after we're done with the session, I'd be happy for anyone who wants to look to go through the kit with you.
Just a visual.
Yeah,
that way, right?
sure. That makes sense.
All right, so there also were some really good questions. Chloe came back in and said, what are the units on what we're measuring? And that's a great question. So you're measuring concentration in, for PM, that's going to be micrograms per meter cubed. The other variables that you have on, that the sensor measures, temperature and relative humidity, were in degrees Fahrenheit and percent. So, but I believe that if you were able to get the map to load, which that was a really frustrating part and did not load, it seemed like for many people today, the map shows you the units too, I believe. Yes. It does not. Okay, so yeah, it's important to remember that you're measuring concentration with the air beam. Okay, so, and then if you hadn't put that together, the concentration is also mapped to the AQI scale. So when you're seeing green, that means your concentrations are between 0 and 12 micrograms per meter cubed. Yellow, 12.1 and 50. I don't remember the cut points, but the colors correspond to the AQI scale, which the students have learned about in Activity 4. All right, so once you're back in the classroom, or once you've finished an air casting session, similar to how you started it with the record button at the top, there's also a button, the same button then, to stop recording. And once you stop recording, you're going to notice that the colors have gone away, and you're back to essentially square one, or at that point you can start another session. Once you're back in a Wi-Fi area as well, your phone is going to, the app is going to push data to the Kids Making Sense website. So that is found at maps.kidsmakingsense.org. And I have it up here on the screen. And we see a few sessions here that I have uploaded. So if you come back in and you haven't, you're not seeing your session in the sessions panel over here, you can go back into the app and actually force the app to sync with the website. So the way to do that would be to go into your, if you're in the app, the basic menu button is at the top left. Going into there, and then underneath dashboard, there are sessions. You can see all of the sessions recorded under your account. So even if that session was made on a different phone, you're going to see that session under your session menu. At which point, in order to force the app to sync with the website, you just simply, pull down and drag, and you'll see this small, button circle, moving around where it's syncing, and that is the action to take to try and force the app to sync with the website if you're not seeing your session automatically load to the website. All right, so we have a few here. I think this one is mine actually, and it's super boring because the phone has just been sitting up here. But this is what the website looks what the website looks like when you log on. And I'm going to choose, do we have Arnold in the room, anyone?
That one on top.
Yes, Arnold. Okay, so we're gonna look at Arnold's session. And clicking on his session brings that up. It focuses on where he's been. There's also a sessions graph here that shows you your concentration by, with time on the x-axis. You can shrink that. I'm going to shrink that for now with this button. And then we can look at the map in a little bit more detail by clicking on satellite. So we can see that it looks like Arnold and his team walked around the parking lot, and it looks like they found maybe some moderate, air quality readings near a road, which is really interesting. One thing that I forgot to mention before you guys. Okay, I'll click on Sherry next. The app also has a feature when you're walking around. There is a note-looking button at the top right corner of the app that allows you to make notes and take pictures when you're out making measurements. And that note then, so you can add a note like, I'm seeing higher measurements, why might that be? Oh, I'm standing right next to, a leaf blower or something like that. And so you can take a picture of the leaf blower, make a note, and that note is geocoded to the location that you made the note. So it's very helpful when you're looking at your session later to have that information. All right, let's look at Sherry. So unfortunately, the map does not allow you to look at 2 sessions at once. So I have to unclick Arnold's session, and then what's the name of your session? You see it? No, no, no. Okay. Let me do a refresh here. See if we got any other. It actually might be really helpful if you could bring your phone up to the front here, and I can see which session I'm looking for. Sherry. Okay. New. All right. So you guys, yeah. Did you use any tags with your? This one? No.
The session graph that's down there, how am I supposed to interpret this? I mean, I see the times, you're walking around and stuff, okay, you have to point to it to get the reading. Okay.
So yeah, this is
what I'm trying to get at.
time series plot of concentration by time, and
Where you are on the map.
yeah. So by mousing along here, you can see where you've recorded that concentration. It doesn't have a lot of flexibility with changing the x-axis, but you can change the y-axis. It doesn't have a lot of flexibility with the y-axis, but you can change the x-axis by zooming into looking at 1 minute at a time or 5 minutes at a time, 30, to your whole session. So, so this is, a cool graphic that you can look at. And then, so right now we're trying to find a session GB test. Thank you for bringing this up and hanging out with me. And the profile name is Shuri. So one of the things that you can do if you're not seeing your session, which I am not seeing with the profile Shuri. I'm not seeing that, or Sherry. So I'm not seeing it, and then this is where some of the
Keep going down a little bit.
there. Okay, so here's Sherry's, yeah. But what I was gonna show you guys is there is some searching functionality on this website. So if you can't find your session, you can use the search functionality to help find your session. So, so if I unclick,
So I didn't show where we were at.
no, so that I'm going to explore the searching functionality quick, and then we'll go back to Sherry's. But thank you for bringing this up and helping me
top one, right,
figure out.
the test data, right? I set that up and somebody else took it out.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. So when you first log on to the website, and you don't actually have to log on, you just have to go to the website. There's no login requirement. Your sessions, the sessions that have been recorded and uploaded to the website for all the Kids Making Sense users appear on the left, with generally the most recent sessions appearing at the top. So over time, your session may not be as, scrolling through, you're like, where's my session? On the right-hand side here, you can use some of the search functionality to find your session. So for example, if I type in Petaluma and press submit, it should bring me right to Petaluma. So that's helpful. And then it will show the sessions that have been recorded in and around Petaluma. So if we go back to Diamond Bar, so that will help. That's one way that you can find your aircasting sessions after a certain amount of time has passed since doing the recording. Also, as I think I mentioned before, within the app, in the sessions menu, so once again, working from the main menu under sessions here, you can see all of the sessions that you've ever recorded with your profile. It doesn't have to have been recorded on this exact phone. Any phone that has been logged into your profile and has made measurements, you're going to see the sessions that have been recorded. All right, so let's look at this guy. Ooh. Yeah, and all of these phones have, so some of the work that we do before we send the kits out is we make sure that all the GPS settings are set to most accurate. And so you should see a very, pretty accurate, where you've been. But inside, and sometimes the GPS doesn't work, is not all accurate all the time. So you might see some odd spikes, and you're like, I wasn't there. But those data points tend to be far and few between. So it looks like whoever walked out with the test HRH session walked in a lot of different places, which was great. You're seeing a little bit of moderate air quality, but mostly good. So it's a pretty good day, it seems like, for particulate matter. I think. Oh, also, while we're still looking at the AirBeam stuff, I wanted to bring up Habitat Map. The creator of the AirBeam has a nice blog post, I guess, about the technical specifications of the AirBeam, which talk also about how they, the instrumentation that they ran the AirBeam next to and tested it with in order to develop the equations that convert, voltage or light intensity to concentration. But then also, you guys probably already are very familiar with AQ-Spec and the testing that they do here to test sensors and evaluate their performance. All right. Are we?
Let me get back to the slides. Okay. Yeah. Just got a few more. Yeah.
And then one thing before we move on to the next slides. Sometimes, so the technology never works perfectly, and this is a lot of times having to work with the technology helps you learn how to troubleshoot it. But troubleshooting is one of the most important things that you can help provide to your teachers and your classes as well. Usually, the students have they're so tech savvy that they just are able to pick this up and run with it. It's usually the teachers that are a little bit more need a little bit more guidance technically.
Up to the lessons learned, and then I'll go back.
Five phones and 5 AirBeams.
Set up with the same user and password.
Yes, yeah. That we recommend that, and that helps keep all the data that you've collected as a class in one location. All right, am I done? Yeah.